going to send out an official survey. We're going to send out an official survey in spring. But right now the board did vote unanimously to change the name, but we're taking our time. And that whole naming process. So for the visitors and members alike, thank you. If you're not a member, take a look at the website, AltaCal.org, and join, become a member. And we have lots of programs every Monday night. If you're interested in even joining the board, talk to one of the board members, and we can give you some information. John is, I am Jennifer, and give you more information about joining the board and contributing in that way. What else do we have going on? So Jennifer, I'll hand it off to Jennifer, the program chair. Thank you.
Well, welcome everybody. This is one of several programs we'll have this year, and we're excited that it's going to be on owls. What a fitting month for owls. We usually start out with some announcements, and we also give you some updates on a lot of our field trips that are coming up. And actually, it is an incredible amount of field trips. So I would have you look at our website or your newsletter and check out all the field trips that are planned that are coming up. We have quite a great field trip coordinator, Karen Smith, that really gets people on board and has them say, no, this is what people really love to do, to go out and look at the birds. So please check out our upcoming field trips coming up. Also, we're planning the 24th annual Snow Goose Festival. We're always looking for leaders and new places to go. So please approach me or email me with any ideas, or if you're interested in leading or volunteering, I'm the person to talk to. Another thing, I forgot to do this last month, is sighting. That's one of my favorite parts of the programs that we have. So if anyone can let me know sightings that are happening right now. I mean, it is starting to pick up. I think we're starting to hear geese. I heard some last night. So anybody have any sightings? And the folks on Zoom, you can put that in your chat if you'd like. Yes.
Well, I was just out at Llano Seco a little bit ago, Tom and I went, and there were just hundreds of cranes out there, thousands of white cranes. Right. So those are the first cranes I've seen. So I heard them going overhead, but they were out there. There's water, but it's kind of way out there.
Right.
It's not up to the platform at all.
Yeah, and it seems
cranes flying over, or were they?
They were also just hanging out. You know, some were coming in, but mostly they were just out walking around to the you know. Doing the crane thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like the refuges and, you know, the viewing platform, the Llano Seco, they usually the first week or first 10 days of October, they start flooding. So, you know, that does really bring in the cranes. Any other sightings? In your backyard? I know we just were talking about the white crowned sparrows and golden crowns are in. I think there's been a couple of sightings of white crowns, white-throated sparrows.
I've been getting a red-breasted nuthatch in my yard for a couple weeks.
Yeah, red-breasted nuthatch. They seem to be a little more common now every year. I mean, out at the seed orchard, I heard them last week. So the red-breasted nuthatches, I don't know. They're down here in the valley now, kind of hanging out with the white-breasted. Any other, are you hearing geese at night? Okay. Anyway. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead. We have an incredible program. We actually have one speaker who's in Montana, Joan, an incredible photographer. And guess why she's in Montana? Photographing. And we have John Seid here, the other half, an incredible local photographers. We're very fortunate to have Joan and John and a whole bunch of other ones that are out there really taking just incredible pictures. But they're going to share their experience watching a couple of Northern Pygmy Owls. And one of my favorite owls, they just have a personality. It's just incredible. So let's welcome Joan and John to the program.
Thank you. And Joan and I are kind of having a hard time hearing each other. So should I tell the people at home to turn off the microphone?
They're muted.
Oh, they're muting. Okay, people at home, they're muting, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'm John Seid, and this is Joan up there, in the corner somewhere. And maybe before we start, I think it's like 5 years ago that I met Joan, and I was always on Big Chico Creek with my dog, a little kayak, and she looked down and took a picture, and then about a year later, we met at Llano Seco, and she recognized the dog, not me. But anyway, it was a great dog, and I love. Anyway, so can you add something, Joan? Can you hear it?
Yes, I heard it. Yes, I recognized Lucy right away.
Yeah, Lucy. Yeah, turn it up a little bit. So anyway, Lucy was the dog. She went everywhere, always at the refuges and to the doll. Anyway, so since that time, we've gone to Yellowstone a couple of times. You know, I just admire Joan so much, and I know she doesn't want me to tell her age, but you know, 86 right now. And we're kayaking, we're doing all kinds of stuff all the time. Went on a bobcat safari, been on a bunch of stuff like that. And we're always, I get up very early, and Joan gets up very early. So sometimes I'm just getting up in the kitchen, and I see, oh, it's 4:30. Joan, where are we going to go? Okay, what are we going to do? And it worked out well, you know, so works out well for my wife too, because she does get up early. And by the time I do my adventure and come home, she's just getting her coffee and works out perfect. Anyway, so I guess a year before this book happened and before our adventure happened, there's another guy who you'll meet in the presentation, which basically is this book that Joan made. It's just fabulous. And but his name's Suji, and I was just not part of their group so much, but since I hang out with Joan, there was a call that he had spotted a pygmy owl way up in the park at the end of the park. And so we went up there, and for me, I got some great pictures of just this single little owl eating a mouse or a bull, and then you know, a couple of shots where it was like from here to the wall, just sitting looking at us, and I thought that was just fabulous. But then a year later, Suji called us again. Joan, you want to start in or add something?
Oh, yeah, that was an exciting call, because what he said was that he not only saw, we called this little owl Nopo, of course. Not only did he see Nopo, but he saw Nopolina, and they were together, and it looked like they were going to mate. So I dashed in my car, John dashed in his, and out we went. And sure enough, we're standing there taking pictures. I got a head-on shot of the mating process, and it was wonderful. But little did we know that we were standing directly under the hole, the nest hole. And when we realized, Suji found out that later because he saw Nopolina go in, and we were horrified that we could have disturbed that nest so easily with 4 people standing there taking pictures right under the nest. So we made an agreement. And John, you tell them about the agreement.
And why don't you start the PowerPoint? You want to?
Oh, okay. So here's the cover of my book. And the reason I had to make a book was by the time we said goodbye to the last little owl, I was heartbroken. I didn't want the experience to end. So I decided to collect all the pictures in a book and write it up. And that kept them alive for me for another month. So now onward. Okay, there's Suji.
No, we don't see it yet. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Okay,
there's Suji's on the left.
Suji on the left, and that's Nope on the right, and that's in 2022 when we were just watching Nopo. John, you go ahead and tell them about our agreement.
Right, right. And then the picture of the owl there was a year previous, and it's the male owl. And we just watched it. It would devour things all day long, it seemed like. And it was just fascinating just to see that. So that's that year before. And Suji's just an amazing person that has a great ear. He loves birds, and
I'll go back. Yeah.
yeah, he's a builder and kind of makes his living that way and just getting job after job. And he will forfeit those jobs at any time just to go out and look at birds and photograph. So he's always out there somewhere. He's just about, he'll go up to Lassen somewhere and miss work. It doesn't, the work is just secondary to his photography and his love of the nature. So
you're going to tell them about how we were standing.
Why we made the agreement, right? Because it's such it's painful sometimes because we've discovered other things that maybe we should tell everybody, but then there's something that tells us or myself that like, no, we don't want to disturb them either. So we did make this agreement because we figured out once we saw them mating and once we found out, Suji a couple of days later saw the nest, saw the female going in and out of there, that we decided we can't do this. We can't tell anybody. We got to keep quiet. So we actually were scorned by some of our fellow photographers too. Their feelings were hurt. Why do you mean we can't tell? Anyway, it was difficult for a little bit, but we kept to it. So we even spaced it out where only one of us would be there. Then there'd be a day in between, and then another one would be allowed. So there was a whole schedule we set up where that was your day. You go there, you're there. And here I am with Joan. I got there that morning for my first time, and I couldn't find the hole. I was like, oh my God, where is it? I'm using my time of my day. And so I phoned Joan, and she shot up. She was out somewhere near, and she came up and pointed it to me. And so there I am, sitting on my little chair because it's about a 4 or 5 hour thing. You're waiting for this the sound of the owls to communicate with each other, and then you can get ready because they shoot out of the hole like little rocket ships. So yeah, they're incredible. So anyway, that's a picture of Joan setting me up for my day at the
and
nest site.
then I had to leave because it was John's day. I didn't want to leave.
No, but yeah, Suji was very much of an enforcer.
And this is my setup. I wanted to catch some video and I wanted video and stills. So I set up my camera with these 2 tripods and my little umbrella because it could get up to 95 degrees, of course, even though it was before noon. And I would have a trigger in each hand. In the book, I described myself as a loony cowgirl with a with a gun in each hand. But we were determined to get pictures as they left the nest and as they arrived, and also video. And it was very hard to stay focused because it was hours in between, and then 5 seconds of action, and then another hour or 2. So it was a Zen experience.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And you can see that Joan had to lug all of that stuff in there and set up. And sometimes when we were setting up, because we had tried to get there very early, but the park doesn't really open up till 7. But sometimes the guy comes at 7:20 or whenever. And so by the time you get there, and then as you're setting up, you could hear the tooting of these little owls, and then see in a flash how one just shot out of the nest. And then for me, it was another 2 hours and 45 minutes before any more action happened. So it was just a real neat experience, actually. It was kind of hooked me. Anyway. So this is the hole. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can barely see it. It's very tiny.
Oh,
2
from
inches.
here, yeah, you can see that we're looking towards this tiny little hole in that tree. There you go. Yeah. And it was so amazing. We'll talk later, but it's the size of this. And these little owls are bigger than the hole. And then when they have their prey, it's almost, unbelievable that they can get in and out. It's in the upper part.
Yeah. And there you see the 2 of them side by side. to see, you can see that the female is a little larger and has a longer tail than the male on the right.
So Joan, there's a little bit of a delay for the pictures, but now they're up there. Now they're up there.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, go ahead and
Okay, so that's Nopo. That's Nopo staring at me on the right, with a little smaller, and but when you saw them by themselves, I couldn't really tell which was which. It was very difficult, but when they were side by side, you could tell. And okay, so what we've done, what I did in the book, and what we're doing tonight is this is a little table of contents. We're going chronologically. Starting, we already talked about the 2022 experience, and then the hunting and courting in mid-April will be part 1, and then the nest hole, and we're waiting when incubation begins, and we have no idea what's going on in the nest. We only see the Nopo coming with food in and out, and then finally through May, and there's a hatching. And nobody knew that but Suji, because he could hear the little squeaking inside the nest. And then stage 4, the little owlets, one by one, they would put their little heads out the hole, and we would stare at each other. And then finally they fledge. And that was the challenge. We'll talk about it later. Of we're sitting there. Are we ever going to see one of them fly out, especially the first one? That little guy just stayed up there looking out of that hole and looking out of that hole, and I was ready to go. But did I get him? You'll see.
And we didn't
And
know.
here they, all right, we're starting. John, you want to take over? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so there they are, they're
now?
courting. Yeah. And that
Okay.
was a great day to watch them just really bonding, because the year before we just saw the male and we didn't know anything more than that.
Yeah.
So there they are. And then they were eating lots of different food. They're really fierce hunters, and they're just amazing that they eat so much. They must burn it up like you would. Pardon me?
What is that phrase? What was that?
I couldn't really recognize it, but there's mostly bulls and lizards, and sometimes a little bird. So they're just getting to know each other and bonding. Chime in, Joan.
There we have them. And here we
Oh,
have
yes,
the mating shot.
I couldn't get the shot. Joan was in front of me blocking my camera, but but she got it.
That's definitely not true. We were in a line. I happened to be at the angle where Nopa was looking at me. But unfortunately, this is the moment when all of us were standing directly under the nest hole.
We didn't know it. Right behind us, the nest.
Right behind us. Yeah.
Because we've been reading about it in books that it was in fir trees and pine trees. And we're like in this oak little forest, like, oh, it couldn't be here anyway. But then it turns out it's right over our head. You know? So they do go to oak trees.
Okay. And here's some I'll wait for the delay, but here's some more eating. I think what we have here is a little yellow rump.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it didn't seem hard for them to get prey. They had a lot of it.
Okay, here we are at stage 2. The nest hole is chosen and the incubation begins, and we see, I think this is Nopalina,
Yes.
just sitting there looking out the hole. She stayed in the hole most of the time, but maybe once or twice she would come out, exercise a little, and stay out for about 8 minutes or so.
And sometimes, well, when you're sitting there, nothing's happening at all. But then we'd hear this little amazing toot, and if you can dial one up on your phone sometimes, and listen to this very gentle tooting. And then she would respond to that. And as soon as you saw her not even sticking out that far, but your fingers on the trigger of the camera, and you're just like, no, it's going to happen. And then they just shoot out like a little rocket. And Joan has a camera that takes 60 frames in a second. If you can believe that. And I have the more old-fashioned camera, though I just did buy something new. But anyway, so when they came out, I maybe get one and half, maybe two at the most if you were right on it. But she got some actual increments. And Suji has one of those cameras too. So anyway,
Yeah,
that's how we did it.
yeah. This is to catch this moment. You really have to have that extra special feature on your camera because it happens so fast.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And for me as a photographer and lover of all this stuff, I think in the whole process I might have gotten 2 or 3 pictures like that. And yet it was worth it. Just when you get a picture like that, it's like, oh my God, look at this. Anyway, so it's very satisfying. This is Joan.
I was pretty happy with this one. And this one.
Yeah, when they shot out, they didn't always go straight towards the camera. Look at that. Incredible.
Okay.
And
Now we're
difficulty
talking.
focusing
Yeah.
too.
Go ahead, John.
No, and then the focusing, sometimes you go, oh my God, I got it. And then you realize, oh no, the camera picked up the back of the bird and you can make the eyes and all of that stuff happen. So it's an interesting thing when they go to the hole with like this, a vole or a mouse, I'm not sure. But anyway, they have a grip on this thing that's unbelievable. I mean, and just to get in there with it and in and out of this and all the time, it's just it amazed me because she or he could barely fit in the hole. And we know that, the mate's in there also.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So there were times after the little ones had hatched where both parents were inside the hole with one had brought a vole and one had brought a lizard. So there's a lizard and a vole and 2 adults and 5 little chicks, all in this little tiny space. It must have been a mess in there, but
and we have
I don't know.
We explored the tree later and have pictures of the inside of the tree. Yeah,
yeah.
We were upset.
There's
a lizard.
Here you see a lizard delivery.
Ken, what kind? Western fence? Yeah. But there were some. Anyway.
Here's some more just running out of the hole.
Yeah. Really cool. So we had to, you have to jack up the speed to 1600ths of a second or 2000, otherwise if you didn't have the right settings and it happened, then you just blow the whole thing.
Okay, now we're getting to early June when the babies started putting their heads out the hole. And I took a picture from later on from the position of the hole. So show you what the babies were looking at when they looked out. That's what they see. And they didn't see us because we're behind those branches.
But there's the baby looking out. And they weren't going to come out though. There was quite a few days of them just sitting there looking. And I didn't know how many were in there. Could have been the same one.
Yeah, you can tell them apart, unfortunately. I would imagine there were different heads at different times, but they all look the same. This is the same one. This is just a sequence with all the same chick.
Okay. Go ahead, Joan.
Okay. And here you see another scene of a big fat vole coming in.
No, actually, we missed it. We're looking at the 4. Go back.
Okay.
We're just looking at the 4 pictures.
Oh, okay.
Of the wow. But this is from Montana. She's doing this. But anyway, they're very cute.
Very cute.
And during this time, I had to go to Santa Cruz with my daughter lives. So I'm like missing the most amazing thing. But I came back just in time to see the parents that were now starting to deliver prey, but they weren't letting the babies eat anything. They would take it in there, and then maybe a couple of minutes, if that, they'd come out again with the whole bowl, trying to lure them out of the hole, which was really interesting.
Yeah, this is we're still at the stage where they're just bringing in the food. They had to bring in a lot of food.
Oh, right. Okay, so just feeding
Yeah,
them.
we haven't come to the when they're actually trying to tease them out of the hole.
Okay.
Still bringing in food.
Look at the size of that. You know.
For the ball size on the back, is that a sex thing? I don't see the markings on the other bird.
They both have it. Yeah. Just the eye spot on the back of the head.
Yeah.
It might have it.
And the little spots on the head. It's just that when we saw them together, it was just the tail length that seemed to be, and the smaller size of the male. Like with hawks and eagles too, and they're just smaller males.
So the bowl is about 6 grams and that owl is about 100.
Yeah, incredible strength. And then to fit it in the hole. Struggling. This is a picture I took, one of my only ones. But anyway, I liked it. It made it all worthwhile. But at this point, I know
wonderful. That's a wonderful
you don't have to
picture.
patronize me,
One,
Joe.
yeah. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, are they both? The owl 60 grams and the bull 60 grams. They can look that up. So anyway, yeah, I'm pretty sure that I was there at this time when he or she, which I couldn't really tell you, was trying to lure them out. But go ahead, Joan. I might be wrong.
No, this is the one where they're starting to try and get them out.
Okay.
Definitely.
They'd stay there for a little bit, and all of a sudden you could count once we got the rhythm. Oh, they're going to leave in a second. Get ready.
And they're leaving, and they're trying to entice them out, but they're not coming. Here again, they immediately brought the, what is that, a mouse, and then turned right around and took it away.
Teasing them.
Okay, now this was my moment.
Oh, right. We're getting to
In mid-June. And this little guy was sticking his head out, and he was sticking his head out further and further and further and further. And I thought, maybe this is the moment. And this is the time when Suji allowed 2 of us at the same time to be out there. So Suji was there taking stills. He wanted to catch the baby leaving, and I was taking video. The bottom picture is a clip from the video. I actually got video of this first baby leaving the nest. It was very exciting. There it is. It's blurry because it's a video picture, but it was thrilling. And what happened was he dropped to the ground. He caught on a branch first and then dropped to the ground. But then he flew right at me, and he fluttered over my head, and then he landed on the ground right next to me. We looked at each other, and I tried to think, how do I get this picture? I can't possibly move fast enough. And then he flew off into the grass. But Suji
said, I'm going to read from the, and so says Suji in his most official sounding British accent, which I'm not sure. He said, now, he ran over to Joan and said, Ms. Robins, perhaps you could explain to the world how it feels to be the first person in history to be hit in the head by a flying baby Northern Pygmy Owl right from the nest. And then Joan said, me laughing giddily, I'm totally speechless. I mean, it was just this wild, wild moment that was happening. Yeah, pretty cool.
I felt blessed by that bird. I really did. It was like a miracle to me. But from that moment on, I was sure that poor baby was out there in the sun baking, because it was 100 degrees, and I never saw him leave the sunny area of the grass.
The high,
Luckily, we found out later Pardon me?
I was going to tell them that it really wasn't grass. It's all foxtails, and
Right.
we're sitting in this that would be covered with these things. So yeah, they
Yeah.
were vulnerable, and there was also jays around and different birds that would easily go down and nail it. And the parents were up there; they're watching, and we could never really get a clear shot of the parents. You could hear them come sometimes, and when it got to this stage, they weren't tooting anymore because I'm sure they didn't want to make everybody around know that the babies were about to come out. So you had to be just really like, but and there's so much foliage, we really never could see them except when they were going in and out.
So once they got out, the babies started to leave. They would leave. One would leave one day, and the next one would leave the next day. And at this point, there were 4 of them out on the trees near the nest hole, and we stayed around there for a day, I believe. And then the next day they were a little further on, and I caught this picture of one being fed up on a branch. This was away from the nest tree. I'd say maybe 100 yards away.
The parent with the spots on its head is the parent, whether it be the father or the mother, and then you can see the babies getting fed. Great parents, amazing parents.
But they were such good parents. It was so amazing to watch them take care of them. Here you see 3 babies.
I know.
No, what? 2 babies and a parent. Yeah. The parent is on the right. You can tell because the parent has a tail and the babies don't. And this picture is in the book. It's like a Where's Waldo. There are actually 4 babies showing here. One, John, can you point? There are 2 on the branch in the bottom middle, and one way up in the upper left.
That's the parent, I think. It has a long tail.
The upper left is the parent, and then there's one directly below that one, and then there's one up in the upper right corner, and I think that's it.
Yeah, it's hard when we went back to find them. It was difficult. The long.
Oh, it was so hard to find them.
And we didn't get that many days with all of them there, and they kind of migrated somewhere else. So every day we'd be like, where are they now?
Yeah, they moved further and further north every day. I think we had a total of 5 days where we could still follow them.
And this is a little bird that's only the size of your fist.
So you guys had to walk around?
Yeah. And maybe you could hear them. Suji could. We're a little bit hard of hearing, Joan and I, so that makes it. And the other person. So Suji would be hearing them, and then he could find them. It was difficult.
Here you have three babies and a parent. You can see the baby short tail and the parent long tail. Again, then there's, I believe
there's a mouse hanging down. So this
the parent has the mouse hanging down, and the other 3 are babies. And 5 owlets. Suji caught this picture. I missed this day. I was so upset because that proved that my little baby that came out first made it. And I was so excited because I was sure we had lost that one, but here there are 5. And then here's the very last day. And the entire family was last seen on June 21st, 2023. Yeah. But we didn't give up. we went back to the nest, and we wanted to take measurements. So you can see I bought this little very inexpensive endoscope, and Suji got up on a ladder and threaded it into the nest. and the whole, he took measurements, so you can see the whole dimensions. It was 10.5 feet from the ground, 2¼ inches wide and 1 3/4 high, 6.5 inches from the entrance to the rear wall, 14 inches deep. So it was like a 2-gallon hole. And if you remember, it had 2 adults, 5 babies, and a couple of prey inside there. Amazing. And here's what it looked like inside the nest. Surprisingly, not disgusting. It was all dry matter. And apparently, it's an old tree and it has a lot of insect life, and they work on it, and it absorbs all of the poop and the remains of the prey.
Right, we didn't observe them taking waste out of the nest at all.
Okay, so what were the lessons that we learned? And there were a lot of lessons that we learned. We learned a lot about ourselves and our ability to sit so long. But what did we learn about the pygmy owls? I'll read some, and John will read some. They chose a nest hole in a grove of blue oak trees surrounded by small meadows with many fallen trees, lots of prey accessible, and near a creek.
And the hole they chose was tiny, just over 2 inches wide. They had to squeeze in and squeeze out, and some of the prey literally filled the hole.
And both parents were just remarkably attentive and expended enormous energy lovingly tending and feeding their young. It was quite touching to see.
And Joan says, I never personally saw either parent carry out any debris from the hole, right? And here's, this was a page that we already saw what it looked like. Yeah.
And despite the state of the hole, the owlets were in no hurry to leave the nest and had to be coaxed and teased by the incoming food that would quickly depart. Mom would fly in with a mouse and quickly leave, taking it with her.
The hole must have been quite roomy inside, even though the branch measured only 28 inches around. As I watched one day, the 5 chicks, 2 adults, 1 large lizard, and 1 large mouse were all inside at the same time.
And the male is smaller, slimmer, with a shorter tail.
For 8 long days, the owlets were able to peek out the entrance. They had time to mature, but no room to spread their wings. And yet, when they did come out, they were able to fly a bit, not well, but surprisingly far.
When they'd all fledged, they moved steadily northeast along the creek from day to day. We were very curious about their destination and how long it would take for these owlets to learn to hunt for themselves. That information is still a mystery to us.
It became very clear that each owlet had distinct personality. One most often alone on a branch, one grabbing for food as soon as it arrived, another just patiently waiting his turn or her turn.
It's easy to get very attached to a family of Northern Pygmy after staying with them and observing them carefully for 2 months. We literally, it's sort of arrogant to say, but I started to feel like I was part of the family, and I was heartbroken when they took off without me. Oh, I'm sorry.
So, Joan, do you have that last page?
And that's
that you can come up with the your link?
Yes. Oh, let's see. Yeah. Oh, where'd it go? Here it is. There it is. I don't know why that one didn't show
there
up.
it is. There it is.
So if you're interested in buying the book, it's for sale on, and these are the links. The larger book is expensive because it's printed one-off for everybody who orders it. But the smaller book is quite affordable, and it's that's the one that John has in front of you. But I'm sending some of the profits that I make from the book. The guy who helped us and gave us so much information about pygmy owls is here in Montana. His name is Steve Hero, and he's attached to the it's called the Owl Research Institute in Montana. And so I promised them that I would contribute some of the profits to them from the book. And that's it.
Well, I just want to say yeah. If you're interested, it's a beautiful little book because Joan was an English teacher also in college, so she's quite a great writer. And these little books, I've made some books too, and we found out this place called Mag Cloud is quite inexpensive. I think they're around $15. So this is a small one, so it's quite affordable. Anyway. Okay.
So if there are any questions, I won't be able to hear the questions, John. If there are any questions, you'll have to repeat the question if it's for me.
Okay. Yeah, that one just says thank you very much. Enjoyed it. So Candy, how do you get the number 2? Oh, okay. Another thank you, and so educational. Like we're really scientists, but we're not. Anyway, did you hear the owlets vocalize in the nest?
No, we
couldn't.
I never.
But Suji could. Yeah.
I believed him.
Yeah. He could.
These owls nocturnal?
No, they're daytime hunters. They're out there in the daytime.
So even
so
when
cool.
they're not breeding?
Yeah, they're out there, and that's when we first saw them the year before in the afternoon. There it was. It was like amazing to me. Probably like burrowing owls, We're also daytime. But anyway. Oh, here they are over here. I'm sorry. Were these photos mostly in the morning, or did you stay there all day? I stayed in the morning, but Joan would go back sometime.
No, I was there mostly in the morning. It was very, very hot, and going in the afternoon was it was unbearable.
Right.
I want to know what kind of camera does 60 frames a second.
They're mirrorless cameras.
I have
Joan.
a
Okay, Joan has an Olympus. Maybe you could explain that, Joan.
Yeah, I haven't explained. What was the question?
What camera and how can you take 60 frames a second? Or I know you can take 120 also.
120, yeah. It's an amazing camera because it's a 4/3 camera, which means it's got a small sensor, and the file size is not extremely large, so it can buffer and take a lot of pictures in a second. The Nikon camera is a full frame sensor. It's a larger sensor, so it's a bigger file and it can't take as many at a time. But my camera also has this feature that Nikon is trying to copy, where it actually saves 15. If you half press the shutter, it saves 15 pictures in the buffer, and then it lets them go as it takes new ones. It lets those go. So when you finally press the shutter and the bird's already gone out of the hole, you still have those first 15 pictures of what happened previously. It's like a time machine. It's magic.
We've been out with sometimes beavers on the river or something, and I'm taking it with my antiquated camera. And anyway, so you can see the tail. If you really catch it, maybe. But Joan, you can see them incrementally, the tail going down. We've seen coyotes that are, doing the pouncing, and hers is every moment of the pouncing.
It's almost like video. So fast.
Yeah, it's really cool. But she's a great photographer.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you, guys.
right, thanks again,
Fun,
Joan
thank
and
you.
John.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for coming, in person and on Zoom. Next month will be our member slideshow, so you photographers, get ready for an evening of great photos that we'll be showing here again, and have the Zoom link. So right now, good night to Zoom people. We have about 15 people, 16 people in our audience here at the in-person program. And we actually we do have a raffle, so that might entice some of you to come in person every month. So our raffle is pretty special. It is going to be chosen right now to see who will our winner be. So yeah, and tonight's program was just absolutely such educational information and just incredible photos. And I have to go find that tree up in the upper park. So, I know, I've been up there many times. I hear them, but have never seen them. I just hear that too. And I'm going, where is it? It's probably right above my head. Anyway, so thank you again for coming. We'll go ahead and do our raffle. Okay. Good night, everybody on Zoom. We'll see you next